The next element of CRAP is authority, the source of the information. Authority is important, especially with the proliferation of information out there. As always, our friend the information need is important when evaluating for authority. Knowing who wrote a source can help you define its credibility. Instructors will frequently ask you to use scholarly sources, so knowing that you need materials from authoritative sources will aid in your research. Keep in mind that when evaluating for authority, you may need to conduct additional research on an author to check credentials or previous publications. As usual, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself when determining the authority of a source. First of all, ask yourself who was the author, publisher, source, or sponsor of the material. You'll want to know who produced the material to be able to determine whether or not it meets the level of your information need. Be careful of sources that do not have an author. Next, ask what are the author's credentials or organizational affiliations. This can be extremely important if your information need includes scholarly sources. But how can you know what the author's credentials are? There are 3 easy ways to check. First, perform a Google search on your author. Another way to try is a Wikipedia search. Finally, many scholarly articles have the author's credentials right on the first page, frequently citing the organizational affiliation or college or university where the author works, as well as whether or not the author has a PhD. Next, you should ask yourself, is the author qualified to write on the topic? Simply having a PhD is not enough. For example, someone with a PhD in physics is not necessarily qualified to write about child development. Take a look at the author's educational background, the previous contributions to the scholarly conversation, whether the author is affiliated with a hospital, research facility, reputable organization, or a college or university. Another question to ask yourself is if there is contact information, such as a publisher or an email address. Many scholarly articles will include the author's university email address. As for publishers, take a look at the publication. Is it reputable? Is it peer-reviewed? Try a Google search to see what has been written about the publication, or go to the publication's website and read the About section. The last question is specific to web sources. Consider this. Does the URL reveal anything about the author or source? Let's take a look at the most common domain extensions. You probably encountered .com the most frequently. This extension designates a commercial site. Typically, .com is for websites that make money online, but can include businesses, personal websites, blogs, portfolios, and almost anything in between. Similar to .com is .net. This extension designates a network and is typically recommended for internet, email, and networking service providers. Websites with .com and .net have the lowest level of authority and should be used with caution. Let's take a look at the highest level of authority next, the .edu and the .gov extensions. Restricted to public universities and other educational institutes, .edu is generally considered credible if it represents a department or research center at an educational institution. Make sure that the source is not simply a student's personal website. Another highly authoritative extension is .gov. The .gov designates a government website and is considered a credible source. And now for the problem URL, .org. Traditionally, .org designated a nonprofit organization. However, there are no stringent rules, or oversight over who can purchase a .org domain name, which can be confusing. There are some highly credible and unbiased sites, such as the American Red Cross or PBS. On the other hand, there are others that advocate specific points of view, such as the National Right to Life Committee or MartinLutherKing.org. Beware! You'll want to really look closely at .org sites before using them. So, how do you know what level of authority you'll need for a research project? Why, by defining your information need, of course.